On Christmas Eve, my husband collapsed. My son pushed me away. Stop. You're just a housewife. You'll kill him. My daughter-in-law nodded. You can't even bake properly. Don't try to be a hero. They called the city's top cardiologist. When the doctor arrived, he saw me pressing a spot on my husband's neck. He turned pale, dropped his bag, and yelled, "Wait, are you truly who I think you are?" They froze when they discovered who I really was. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. The smell of cinnamon and pine filled our Westchester home that Christmas Eve, mixing with Clarence's aftershave as he adjusted the lights on our 20-year-old artificial tree. I watched him from the kitchen doorway, my hands still damp from washing dishes, feeling the quiet contentment that comes from decades of shared routines. "Trinity, could you bring me that box of ornaments from the hall closet?" he called, his voice slightly strained from reaching toward the higher branches. I was already moving toward the closet when it happened. A sound I'll never forget, like air being suddenly sucked from the room, followed by a heavy thud that shook the hardwood floors. Clarence lay crumpled beside our coffee table, his face gray, his body unnaturally still. The Christmas ornament he'd been holding, a small glass angel from our honeymoon 28 years ago, lay shattered beside him, catching the tree lights like scattered tears. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands automatically checking his pulse. Weak, irregular, barely there. His breathing was shallow and labored. All my buried instincts surged to the surface. I pressed the specific spot on his neck I knew could help stabilize his heart rhythm. The front door burst open. Edward stormed in with Sarah close behind, their voices sharp. "Mom, what happened?" Edward's eyes were wide, taking in the scene. "He collapsed," I said, my fingers still on Clarence's neck. "We need to call 911. Sarah was already on her phone, but Edward grabbed my wrist. "Stop. Don't touch him like that. You're just a housewife. You'll kill him." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at my son, seeing a cold dismissiveness I'd never noticed before. "No, you don't," I started. Sarah's voice cut me off. "Please step away from him, Trinity. You can't even bake a decent Christmas cake. Don't try to be a hero now." Her words stung, referencing the slightly burnt cake I'd made yesterday. But I didn't move my hands from Clarence's neck. Something deep inside refused to let go. "I'm trying to help," I said quietly. His pulse strengthened slightly. Edward's face contorted in frustration. "You're not qualified." "Call Dr. Martinez," Sarah said. "He's the best cardiologist in the city. He'll be here in 15 minutes. I wanted to explain what I was doing, why I was pressing where I was pressing, about the years of training that made my hands steady. But the words stuck in my throat. The next 12 minutes felt like hours. Edward paced, occasionally ordering me to give my dad space. Sarah stood by the tree, arms crossed, watching with something like satisfaction, as if my helplessness proved something she'd always believed. I kept my fingers on Clarence's neck, monitoring his pulse, adjusting the pressure. His breathing remained shallow but steady, his color slowly improving. I knew we weren't out of danger yet. When the doorbell rang, Edward ran to answer it. Dr. Marcus Chen entered, carrying a medical bag. His hair was streaked with silver, but his movements were precise. He stopped mid-step when he saw me kneeling beside Clarence. He saw exactly where my hands were, the way I monitored my husband. His bag hit the floor with a soft thud. "Wait," he said, barely above a whisper. "Are you truly who I think you are?" Edward and Sarah froze. The room went silent except for the hum of the tree lights and Clarence's steadying breath. Dr. Chen's eyes were locked on mine. Recognition dawned, not just of my face, but of my technique, my positioning, my medical knowledge. After 25 years of being invisible, being dismissed, someone finally saw me for who I really was. My hands trembled slightly against Clarence's neck, 30 years of buried identity surfacing. Edward stared at Dr. Chun with confusion, then back at me as if seeing me for the first time. Sarah's confident smirk had vanished completely. "Dr. Thompson," Marcus said softly. "Is it really you?" The silence that followed was deafening. Kneeling on the living room floor with my husband's life in my hands, I realized my carefully hidden life was about to crumble. I wasn't sure if I was terrified or relieved. Edward's voice cut through the tension, sharp and demanding. What the hell is going on here? Who is Dr. Thompson? I looked up at my son, the man I had sacrificed everything for, and suddenly saw a stranger. Someone who had never asked about my life before he was born. Someone who had never wondered why medical terms came so easily to me, or why I always knew what to do in health emergencies. The Christmas lights twinkled above us, innocent and bright, casting shadows over a moment that would change everything. Clarence stirred slightly beneath my hands. His pulse grew stronger. Relief washed over me, but it was followed by a heavier realization. I might be saving his life tonight, but I was about to lose the quiet, uncomplicated existence I had built over the last 25 years. The ambulance arrived within minutes, red and blue lights flashing across our quiet suburban street. As the paramedics stabilized Clarence and prepared him for transport, Dr. Chin gently pulled me aside into the kitchen. The space felt strange now, the worn marble counters, the steady ticking of the old grandmother clock. It felt like someone else's home. Trinity Thompson, Marcus said softly, wonder and disbelief in his voice. Professor Thompson, I never forgot what you did for me. Edward appeared in the doorway, his face flushed with confusion and anger. Professor? Mom, what is he talking about? I could feel Sarah hovering behind him, her earlier smugness replaced with unease. The story they had always believed, the simple housewife who couldn't even bake a Christmas cake properly, was starting to crack. Your mother, Dr. Chin said, turning to Edward, was the most brilliant professor I ever had at Columbia Medical School. She saved my career. The words hung in the air. Edward's mouth opened, then closed. That's impossible. Mom was never a professor. She's always been a housewife. Yes, I said quietly. I know what I've always been to you. Dr. Chin looked at me gently. You taught advanced cardiology and research methods from 1993 to 1998. You were the youngest female professor to receive tenure in the department's history. I felt exposed, as if 25 years of carefully hiding myself had vanished in seconds. Sarah pushed forward, her voice sharp. This is ridiculous. Trinity barely finished high school. Actually, Dr. Chin said firmly, Dr. Thompson graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Medical School in 1989. She completed her cardiology residency at Massachusetts General Hospital and published 12 groundbreaking papers on pediatric heart surgery before she turned 30. The silence that followed was different. It wasn't panic, it was disbelief. A world quietly breaking apart. Edward leaned against the doorframe. Why didn't you ever tell me? That question hurt more than anything else. How could I? I said softly. Because you needed a mother, not a doctor. Dr. Chin stepped closer. Edward, your mother didn't just teach medicine. She changed lives. When I started medical school, everyone thought I was hopeless. Why? Sarah asked despite herself. I'm autistic, he said simply. Back then, there was no understanding. I struggled socially. I was good at the science, but not the unspoken rules. Everyone gave up on me, except Professor Thompson. He looked at me, emotion clear in his eyes. She taught me how to connect with patients, how to work with colleagues, how to survive. She protected me when others wanted me gone. Edward stared at me like he had never seen me before. You never told me any of this. You never asked, I replied quietly. The truth settled over us. I had become invisible because no one had ever looked closer. Sarah crossed her arms defensively. If you were so brilliant, why give it all up? Why become a housewife? Dr. Chun and I exchanged a glance. Sometimes, I said carefully, we make sacrifices for the people we love. The paramedics called out that they were ready. We followed Clarence's stretcher outside. As we walked, Dr. Chun spoke quietly. That technique you used, the carotid pressure manipulation, that's highly advanced. I may have stopped practicing medicine, I said, but I never stopped being a doctor. He nodded. You saved his life tonight. We both did, I replied. At the hospital, Clarence was taken into the cardiac unit. Edward finally faced me. Mom, I need to understand. Why let me believe you were just a housewife? Just someone who burned Christmas cakes. I finished gently. He looked ashamed. Yes, you did mean it, I said softly. And maybe I let you believe it for too long. Dr. Chin returned with news. He's stable. No permanent damage. Edward looked at him. You mean because of what Mom did? Exactly, Dr. Chin said. Her intervention bought us the time we needed. Later, sitting in the waiting room, Dr. Chin showed me something on his phone. I'm head of cardiology now. We're looking for a senior consultant. Edward blinked. You're offering my mother a job? I'm offering Dr. Thompson the recognition she always deserved. I realized my carefully controlled life was ending. The drive home the next morning was silent. Clarence would recover, but nothing else was the same. At home, Edward finally spoke. If you were a professor, why did you give it all up? What happened in 1998? You happened, I said quietly. What do you mean? When you were born, you had hypoplastic left heart syndrome. The color drained from his face. You survived because of 3 surgeries as an infant, and because I've monitored you every day since. Edward sat in stunned silence, gripping the steering wheel, as the rain streaked down the windshield. I could see the conflict in his eyes, shock, confusion, and the dawning realization that everything he thought he knew about me had been a lie. I don't understand, he whispered finally. You were going to be the youngest tenured professor in Columbia's history. You were publishing groundbreaking research, and you just gave it all up. I took a slow breath, feeling the tension of 25 years lift slightly with each word. I had a choice, Edward. You were born with a heart condition. Hypoplastic left heart syndrome. They told me I'd need to be there, every step, every day, to monitor you. No one else could do it. I didn't just give up a career, I gave up a life I loved to give you one. Edward's face paled as he tried to process it. You've been watching me all this time? Every heartbeat, every doctor visit, every risk. I nodded. Every day. I was your silent guardian. That's why you've survived, why you've thrived. I couldn't tell anyone. Not even your father fully understood. It was too much for people to comprehend. Too much for our family to carry alongside ordinary life. Edward leaned back, staring out the windshield. And all this time, I thought you were just, Mom. Just someone who burnt cakes, who couldn't even handle a medical emergency. His voice broke slightly, tinged with guilt and awe. You saw only what I let you see, I said softly. I became the mother you needed, the wife you expected, not the doctor I once was. It was easier for everyone to believe in the simple version of me. I let the real me, Trinity Thompson, professor of cardiology, fade into the background. I thought it was the only way to survive. Edward swallowed hard. I didn't realize. He turned to me, his eyes wide. How could you carry all that? For me? For Dad? I had to, I said quietly. Because sometimes love means giving up what you want most for the life of someone else. I never regretted it. Not for a second. But tonight, my fingers twitched, remembering the precise pressure points on Clarence's neck, the years of skill and instinct I had buried. Tonight, I remembered that part of me, and it came rushing back. Edward's mouth opened, then closed, struggling for words. Sarah finally spoke, her voice quieter now, stripped of its earlier superiority. I can't believe this. You were a professor? All this time? Yes, I said. And I saved lives. Dr. Chen's life. Edward. His career. But it's not about pride. It's about responsibility. Dr. Chen stepped closer, his eyes softening. Edward, your mother didn't just save me. She saved generations of patients who never even knew her name. She taught me to become the doctor I am today. Without her, I might have left medicine entirely. Edward exhaled slowly, the weight of realization settling on him. All this time, I judged you by what I could see. I never asked, I never tried. I thought I knew you. I was wrong. It's not your fault, I said gently. I let you see only the surface. I protected you from a truth too big for a child, too complicated for ordinary life. I thought I was doing the right thing. Edward's hands trembled slightly. I never knew. I never appreciated. He stopped, swallowing hard. Mom, you saved my life. And I didn't even know who you were. I didn't know what you gave up for me. Tears pricked my eyes, but I held them back. Edward, that's why I stayed invisible. It wasn't about being overlooked. It was about keeping you alive, keeping our family safe. Everything else, all the accolades, the recognition, the excitement of medicine, that was never for me, not in the way it could have been. My life became yours, and it was worth it. He stared at me, words failing. Then he took a deep breath. I can't believe I never asked. I never even imagined. I just assumed. I assumed you were just Mom. Assumptions are easy, I said softly. Seeing the truth, that's harder. And sometimes it hurts. The sound of the hospital monitor beeped faintly in my mind, reminding me of Clarence, stable now but still fragile. The thought of what had almost happened tonight made my pulse quicken, but it also reminded me why I had done everything I had. Everything I'd given up, everything I'd buried. It had all been for this. For him, for Edward, for our family. Dr. Chin cleared his throat gently. Trinity, Edward, I think it's time you understood something else. The technique she used tonight, the pressure point manipulation on Clarence's carotid, is not something a layperson could know. It's advanced, precise. Trinity, you didn't just save your husband. You bought us the critical time we needed to stabilize him. You did this because you are a doctor. Always were. Edward blinked, swallowing. All those times I thought Mom was overreacting, she was saving lives? Yes, I said quietly. Every day, every moment. Sometimes it was invisible. Sometimes it looked ordinary. But it wasn't. It was all part of what I was trained to do. And I did it for the people I love. The car was silent again, except for the steady rhythm of the windshield wipers. Edward's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I said. Just understand that I never stopped being me. I just chose when and where to show it. And tonight, I had no choice. He nodded slowly, comprehension dawning. Mom, I can't believe I never saw it. I was blind to your life. To everything you were. I need to do better. I need to see you now. I felt a flicker of relief, mixed with sadness for the lost years. It's not too late, I said softly. We have now. We have each other. And Clarence is still here because we all acted when it mattered. Edward reached across the center console and placed his hand over mine. I love you, Mom. I'm so sorry I doubted you. I misjudged you. I know, I said, squeezing his hand. And I forgive you. But you need to see, I wasn't just a housewife. I was a mother, a wife, a doctor, a protector, all at once. And that's the truth you should carry with you. He nodded again, a weight lifting from his shoulders. I promise, I'll never forget this. I'll never underestimate you again. Ever. We drove in silence the rest of the way home, but it was a quiet that no longer felt heavy. It felt full, like the pause between heartbeats when you realize you've survived something monumental. The rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean, and somehow, washing away the years of misunderstanding, invisibility, and assumptions that had shadowed our lives. When we arrived home, the house was quiet. Clarence was resting, stable, and safe. The Christmas lights twinkled faintly, the same innocent glow from the night before, but now they felt different, like they had witnessed a hidden story finally revealed. Edward turned to me before he left to check on his father. Mom, can I ask you one more thing? Anything, I said. How did you know exactly what to do tonight? I mean, you saved him. You saved Dad. How? I smiled faintly, feeling the full weight of every year, every sacrifice, every skill that had lain dormant. Because I never stopped being a doctor, Edward. Even when I wasn't practicing. Even when I seemed invisible, I was always watching, always learning, always ready for this moment. Tonight, I wasn't just mom. I was every part of me I had hidden, and that was enough. He swallowed, nodding slowly, his expression shifting from awe to humility. Mom, you're incredible. I don't even know how to thank you. You don't have to, I said. Just remember me for who I am, not who you assumed I was.